All right. So good afternoon again.
Good afternoon, sir.
So today we'll be doing simultaneous equation. I know most of you already went through or have an idea of what or how to solve simultaneous equation, all right? All right. So I said here, simultaneous equation are among the most exciting type of equations that you can learn in mathematics. That's especially because they are very adaptable and applicable to practical situations. So the thing is, simultaneous equation can be solved matrix method, it can be solved using graph, and it can be solved algebraically. So when we learn matrix, we're able to solve it matrix method. This is something that we want to know. But providing that we went through algebra, right, we're going to solve with the algebraic methods, right? So algebraic methods. So the reason why they say algebraic methods, because under algebraic methods, there are two ways of solving it. Two methods. Anybody know? Elimination and elimination method and
Substitution.
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 Good.
Substitution.
Good. So that will come under algebraic methods. And when we learn matrix, we learn a method in matrix, and then we'll see how best we can do. We can do it on graph, right? In the future. So this document is something I sent it this morning. You can go through it. So this is like the a flow diagram of how we solve it elimination method, right? And go through it. I will go through it while teaching, and then you can come back to here and you will see that whatever I said is exactly what is here, right? There's some various, like, I get some examples. There are some wording situations whereby we apply simultaneous equation, and so forth. So let's go straight into the teaching now. Make sure you go through the document. So I want you guys to add up simultaneous equation, and today we will do the elimination method. Here, These are two equations, all right? Two equations. So we call this equation 1 and equation 2. So two equations. We try to solve them simultaneously, right? In the previous class, we did linear equation whereby we solve one equation, but now we're trying to solve two equations together, basically. All right? So take this down and then I will go through the steps of solving it elimination method. So take this down quickly. Good. So elimination method. Here you notice that there are two variables. Two variables are x and y, right? So in ours though, we need to know which variable we're looking for first, right? Which, for instance, we have x and y. Which one of these variables you want to find first, the value for it? Or which one do you want to eliminate first?
We'll eliminate the x.
All right. So if we eliminate the x, if we try to get rid of the x, that will allow us to find for y. And if we eliminate the y, that will allow us to find for x. All right? So someone said they want to eliminate x. So how is it can we eliminate x? How can this x not be visible anymore? How can it become 0?
Minus the top from the bottom.
Excellent. So we minus it throughout. If we minus throughout, minus here, minus here, minus here, that will allow us to eliminate x because x, we're subtracting downward, right? Everybody clear? We're subtracting downwards. All right, we're subtracting downwards, right? So we have here x will need to subtract x, then plus y will need to subtract negative y, and 3 will need to subtract 1, right? And that will allow us to get rid of x because we know x minus x will give us 0. Anything subtracting itself will give us 0, right? So this will give us 0. This section, x subtract x 0. And then we have y minus negative y will give us what? We have here y plus y minus and minus y. What this will give us? Anybody? Y minus,
Negative
anybody?
positive y. Positive y.
No. Y minus, all right. One thing to do, try to ignore the y. What is the value in front of y here at the top? 1, right?
1. 1.
Good. And what is the value in front of this y at the bottom? Anybody? What is the value in front of this negative y?
-1.
-1, -1. So what we're doing is basically
-1.
good. So now all you gotta do is put 1 minus -1 in your calculator. Or 1 minus -1. That will give us what?
2.
Huh?
2.
2. So therefore, y minus -y will give us 2y. Positive 2y. And look here, this negative and this negative will give us positive. You see that? So therefore, what you get is y plus y. And y plus y is 2y. We did algebra, right? So now this section will give us plus 2y. And 3 minus 1 will give us 2. Right? So now what we left with, this section cancel because it's 0. 0 ain't get no effect. So what we left with is 2y equal 2. So now, in order to find for y, what we got to do? We did it, transpose. So we take over,
Transpose
good, we take over the 2.
the 2.
And the 2 is what? Multiplying. When we take it over, it will
Yes, when it comes across it.
divide. Right? So we take over this 2 here, it come over and it divide over here, right? And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So y is equal to 1. So take up to here and then we'll find for x. So we find for y, we need to find for x. Now, good. Everybody can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now we find it for x. In order to find for x, we use any one of the equations at the top, equation 1 or equation 2, and then we substitute the value for y, and then we try to make x the subject. So which one of the equation do you want to use? Let's choose the first one, all right? So the first equation is x plus y equal 3, all right? So now, as I said, you substitute the value for y. So where's the value for y? We just find it.
1.
Right? So wherever we see y, we put 1. And then we make x the subject. So making x the subject, we carry over plus 1, it becomes negative on the other side. So we minus, right? So we get x is equal to 3 minus 1 is 2. So this is how we find for both of our variables. We find for y first, then we find for x. To know if our answer is correct, we substitute back our values that we get into the equation and see if it ends up with a value on the right hand side. For instance, on the first one, look in here for the first equation, right? X is equal to 2. So we say 2 plus and y is equal to 1. 2 plus 1 equal 3. So we get it back, right? For the second equation, we plug it in. X is equal to 2 and y is equal to 1. So 2 minus 1 give us 1. So once it agrees with the equation, it means that you are correct.
Sir, how you get to Y again? I just came into the class.
All right, there we go again. No problem. Good. You hear me? You hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So we get 2y from here. So as I said before, we are subtracting downwards. All right. So it's x minus x will give us 0 because here, watch, x minus x, anything subtracting itself will give us 0. Then we go to the next part, we get y minus, then we say minus y at the bottom, you see that? So it's y minus minus y. This is what here, this section here. Right? So I ask you always y minus a negative y. Nobody didn't answer me. So now I put it in terms of numbers. I say what's the number in front of the y at the top? We say 1. Then we subtract it now from the number that is in front of y at the bottom. The number in front of y at the bottom is minus y. So we say minus y. Minus 1, sorry. So I ask them now, 1 minus a negative 1. We place that in the calculator, we get 2. So therefore, y minus negative y will give us 2y. And also we can see here that a negative and a negative coming together will give us a positive. So it's basically y plus y. Here coming together is basically 1 plus 1. So this is the reason why we know that the coefficient got to be 2. And we just put the y. It says 2y. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. So make sure y'all get this before I move on. So we find for y here, and then in order to find for x, we just simply substitute the value for y here. Using any one of the equations, substitute the value for y. Wherever we see y, we put 1, and then we make x the subject. So y is equal to 1, and x is equal to 2. Then when you get this second move on,
Finish, sir.
Right. Let me give you one say I can do. So we have x work this one. Work this one. X is equation 1. Give you 3 minutes. Equation 2. So equation 1 is x minus 2y equal negative 2. And equation 2 is x plus 3y equal 8. So the first thing we do is eliminate x. In order to eliminate x, we just subtract throughout. Good. So what we do, we see that we can eliminate x, we can get rid of x, if we subtract it, x and x. X from the bottom from x from the top. We just subtract it, all right? That's how x will become 0. So what we do for 1, we gotta do for r. So we subtract here, and subtract here, all right? So we say now, subtracting the words. So we say x subtract x will give us 0. X minus x, you get 0. Right? Then this section here is negative 2y subtract 3y. So we say negative 2y subtract 3y. So negative 2y subtract 3y will give us what? All right, ignore the y.
Y.
Ignore the y and just put in your calculator
One,
the
sir.
numbers. And go again.
Sir,
Ignore.
Y. On Y and Y is the same
One,
thing,
sir.
right?
Ignore the y and put in your calculator negative 2 minus
5,
3.
sir.
Minus 3, minus 5, sorry.
Minus 5. So therefore is minus 5y. Put in your calculator minus 2 or negative 2, subtract 3. This is where they hate. So negative 2y minus 3y will give us negative 5y. Right? And then we have on the other side, negative 2 minus 8. Negative 2 minus 8. Make use of your
Negative
calculator.
10.
Negative 10. So it's minus 10. You gotta be very careful. Right? So now this zeroing in no effect, so we can just put negative 5y equal negative 10. And we make y the subject. How are we making y the subject? Take over negative 5, right? And negative 5 is multiplying. We take it over, it will divide. So it will be negative 10 negative 10 upon negative 5. Negative 10 divided by negative 5 will give us what? What's our answer?
2.
2, right? Positive 2. Make use of your calculator. Don't rely on your memory. Good. So negative 10 divided by negative 5 will give us 2. So y is equal to 2. So we find for one variable, which is y. We need to find for x now. So we choose one of the equations, equation 1 and equation 2, and do our substitution. So choose one of them and tell me what answer I get. Let's choose the first one. Let's choose the second one this time. We get x. Some person can choose equation 2, some person can choose equation 1, no problem, right? We should end up with the same answer. So wherever we see y, we are substituting 2 for it, right? So y is here, so we put 2 instead of y. We know it's multiplying here, so 3 times 2 will give us 6, right? Then we make x the subject, we take over 6, 6 is adding, we take it over, it will subtract. So it's 8 minus 6. 8 minus 6 will give us. Yes, good afternoon. Following?
Yes, sir.
Sir, please go over so I now get to join in the meet.
All right. So I'll explain this one or we end up with the answers. It's recording though, that's a good thing. So just in case persons jump on late and didn't catch a meeting, I will upload it. Good. So we have our equation 1. We have as x minus 2y equal negative 2. The second equation, we have x plus 3y equal 8. And we're trying to find the two unknowns, which is x and y, two variables, right? Trying to find it. So we need to eliminate one variable in order to find the other. So we see that we can eliminate x. We said we want to eliminate x first. All right, so we eliminated x. So in order to eliminate x in this case, we need to subtract throughout. We need to subtract it. This is the only way it can become 0. When we say eliminate, we want it to be 0. So we say x subtract x will give us 0. So this is the reason why we subtract there. And what we do for 1, we gotta do for all. So we need to subtract throughout. Subtract. So we're subtracting downwards. So x subtract x will give us 0. And then here, this section, negative 2y subtract 3y, positive 3y, we found it to be negative 5y, because negative 2y minus 3y, right? We know that negative 2 subtract 3 will give us minus 5 if we check your calculator. So therefore, this will need to be negative 5y. So this is the reason why we get minus 5y here. And in this section, we need to subtract also. So we say negative 2 minus 8. Negative 2 minus 8 will give us minus 10. So that's the reason why we get minus 10 here. So now, we just ignore the 0 because the 0 have no effect here. So we just put negative 5y equal negative 10. This is what we end up with. And then we try to make y the subject because this is the only way we can find for y. So we carry over negative 5. Negative 5 is multiplying. We carry it over, it will divide. So now we have negative 10 upon negative 5. Negative 10 upon negative 5 will give us positive 2. So y is equal to positive 2. And we're saying we find for y here. We need to find for both variables, and the next variable now is x. So in order to find for x, we use any one of the equation, all right, and do a substitution for y. So I decided to use equation 2 in this case. You can choose any one, no problem. So I use equation 2. Equation 2 is x. Equation 2 is x plus 3y. Decided to use equation 2, x plus 3y equal 8. And wherever we see y, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I getting a bit I getting a little unstable internet. Everybody hear me clear now? All right. Anyway, guys can do for me. I think the meeting has like 2 minutes left. So we'll come off, and then you take like 1 minute to come on back, and then we do the next session. And in the meantime, I'm gonna check out the internet to see what's going on, right? So I'm gonna end the meeting, and then you come on back in 1 minute. All right?